Hi everyone, so welcome back to our fifth segment of our digital diagnostics series. And this is about using DDIS to submit your photos to the experts. So now that we have great photos that will be useful in identification, now what? Well, we have to submit them through the DDIS system to get them to local extension agents and other experts that can help in identifying these specimens. So at first, you have to navigate to the DDIS homepage at ddis.ifas.ufl.edu. So the first step in using the DDIS system in order to submit your pictures to the experts for identification is to become a user. So once you've navigated to the DDIS homepage, you can click Become a User directly below the main links, or you can scroll all the way down to the red Become a User button on the homepage. After you click this button, you can fill out the necessary information here. And once you do that, you click Submit, and you should receive an email about your request to become a DDIS user.
So once you've received an email verifying your username and password and you're now a user on the DDIS system, you're going to have to sign in to be able to use the DDIS system to submit photos. So you can see here on our DDIS homepage we have our username and password underneath the Training and Contact Us buttons, and then there's a sign in button next to it. So once you type in your information and click sign in, it'll take you to the My DDIS page. On this, there's a couple different things that we can do here, but this is kind of our home base for all the submissions we have. So you have the My Samples section where you will be able to view things you've previously submitted. You have underneath that the Submit a Sample for Diagnostics link, and that's where we're going to be focusing on today. You also have Submit a Confirmed Sample to the Media Library button, and where this takes you is to look at the different media images that are already submitted, and these are confirmed diagnoses. So you may be able to use these images to better understand what problems you have and compare to what you have. Also here you have a link to your county extension agents, and it will also include information about all the specialists registered with DDIS. So here you can view specifically our county and see which extension agents are available to help through DDIS, as well as any other specialists that may be useful in identifying your samples. So if you're ever on another page, say for example we're on the equipment page and we want to get back to that area where we can submit a sample, we just have to navigate back to the My DDIS page using this link below Training. So if you click that, we're back again to this page where we can select Submit a Sample for diagnosis. So on our My DDIS page, we clicked on Submit a Sample for Diagnostics. And once we're on the next page, we're on a page where we're submitting a sample in a three-step process. So on step 1, we're asked to define what kind of sample we're submitting. So you need to select whether or not your sample is a plant disease, an insect that was associated with a plant, an insect that wasn't associated with a plant, such as inside a house or something like that. Is it a plant or a weed? Is it a mushroom or a fungus? Could it potentially be a management, a physiology, or a nutrient issue? Or is it livestock related? So you can select what you want here, and if you're submitting multiple samples at a time, you can select multiple possibilities here. But for the purpose of this example, we're going to select insect, and it was not associated with the plant. And once we're done here, we're going to click the next button and move on to our next section of step 2 in submitting a DDIS sample. So if you're submitting this sample for someone else, you can fill out their information here with customer name, their address, city, county, email, and phone information. And what this will do is send a copy of the report to this customer directly. However, if you're filling this out on behalf of yourself, you're going to click here, and it'll auto-populate all this information with the information associated with your My DDIS account. So whatever email you signed up with will be where the information about your sample is sent. So for the purpose of this, I put that the title was Demonstration WASP, and this is just so that I know what the sample was that I submitted and that I can easily recognize what I was doing when I submitted this sample, and then I can reference it later. You are allowed to choose the sample source here, and since I'm an extension agent, I clicked extension. However, if you're a farmer, a homeowner, or any of the other ones here, you would click that. You will also include what day the sample was collected on. This gives us information to help us in identifying it based on when it was found during the year. And it also helps us collect information about the different times of the year that we're seeing different insects, pathogens, etc. So if you are submitting a physical sample along with this, you would check the box here, and then you would include information on the date it was sent, and you can also include the longitude and latitude of where the sample was collected as well. Moving down to this section, since I selected insect non-plant, there's a section here to fill out about that. And since it's non-plant, it's asking what structure it was found on. So in the case of the sample that I am submitting, we found it in the kitchen. Was there damage? No, there wasn't. Was it on an animal? No, nothing there. Is it stinging or biting? In this case, we would click yes, because I'm submitting a picture of a wasp. Is it a human pest? No, not necessarily. And here on additional description of the sample, I put that the wasp was flying around our kitchen and it likely came in the door when it was opened. You can include as much information here as you need, and it also can help us with whatever details you include to help us in identifying your sample. Scrolling down a little bit farther, you can choose what county extension agent to send your sample to. So for the purpose of this demonstration, I've clicked myself here, and you can see it populates down here, and that's because I'm the one that submitted the sample. But there are other extension agents in the county that you can send your samples to. Katie here, she is the one that would handle any kind of residential pests, something you found in your house or out in your garden or yard. Tina would also be able to help with any kind of residential pests in your landscape, in your ornamental plants and things like that. And for me, if you are a farmer or a horticultural commercial grower, then you can send your samples to me. However, if you aren't sure which county extension agent to send your samples to, you can select all of them and we can work on figuring out who's best going to be able to help identify your sample on our end. So worst case, just select all three and then we can go from there. If there's anyone else you want to include to get a copy of this sample, you can CC them here. And then you can also include a message to the diagnostician, which in this case would be us, or your extension agents, if you'd like. After all the information is filled out on this page, we can click Next and move on to the last step, which is where we would include the images of our samples. So you can do that by clicking here to click to add images, and then it will take you to your files. Or you can drag the images directly from your desktop or whatever file you have and put them here. So that you guys can see what I'm doing, I'm going to click Add Images. And once I find the file I want, I'll select that file and click Open. And if I scroll down, you can see that my image is now here. You have the option to remove images, to upload additional images, or decide to upload that image later. Once you click on the green Upload Images button, you will be taken to a confirmation that says your sample has been successfully submitted. You'll also get an email confirmation when you hear anything back from the specialists. The number that was specifically assigned to the sample was listed here, and you can use that to reference your sample as well.
It was briefly mentioned on the last slide which agent you should submit your samples to, but you may still have questions. So you can use this table as a quick guide. Ask yourself, are you a homeowner or a master gardener? And if that's the case, you would submit your samples to Katie. If you are a landscape management professional, your samples would go to Tina. And if you're a farmer or a commercial agriculture or horticultural professional, then your samples would go to me, Morgan. But as I mentioned before, if you ever have questions about where your samples should go to, you can submit them to all three agents, and then we'll figure out which one of us is going to be working on your sample.
If you would like to review what you've submitted, you can click View Sample, and this will bring you to the page that includes the sample submission information. So it's going to include the information on where your sample was submitted by, who is going to be the contact for that, including the email address, any clientele information if you included that, and then it'll also include your picture for reference down here as well. If there's any reason you need to revise your submission, you would click on Revise. You can include the reason you want to revise your submission, and then also upload additional information or images if you need. We can also navigate back to the My DDIS page and click on this first link here that says My Samples. And that'll bring us again to our last sample that was submitted, which was our demonstration wasp here. And you can view or revise the sample here as well. And right now the status of our sample is listed as a new sample, but it could potentially change to inspected, a tentative ID, a positive ID in the future. And then it'll also include if you've listed this as a private sample or if it is an overdue sample and it hasn't been checked out yet. So the status of your sample could potentially change soon, and you would receive an email update about this. So now you can see that our sample status has changed to positive ID. So we click this View button here, and then if we scroll all the way down, here again is just the information of what we submitted. We can see that we have a diagnosis, and the diagnosis was submitted by me, and it will list here whatever agent worked on this sample. And our diagnosis is that it's a black and yellow mud dauber wasp in the family Sphecidae. And it will also include any other information that the extension agent listed here as well.
And with that, we've reached the end of our tutorial on how to submit photos to the DDIS system to get your questions answered by experts. If you have any additional questions about how to use the DDIS website, or if you have any technical issues with the website, you can reach out to the DDIS team using the contact page on their website. If you have any questions specifically about your sample, feel free to reach out to the extension agent that was working on your sample, and we've learned in this tutorial on how to access that information. Or you can reach out directly to your local county extension office. Thanks for tuning in.